The Scott Jennings Show is proudly sponsored by Lear Capital. Since 1997, Lear has helped Americans protect their retirement accounts and savings with physical gold and silver. With thousands of five-star reviews and $3 billion in transactions, Lear is who I trust to help me buy gold and silver. Visit LearScott.com.
The voice of free speech. The truth delivered. Common sense for the American people. Welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
The jobs report is out, and it disappoints. President Trump says no negotiations with Iran as the pounding continues. And this hour, we are joined by West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisy, U.S. Senator Ted Budd, and David Macintosh with the Club for Growth. It is Friday, March the 6th. This is Common Sense for the American people. I'm Scott Jennings. We're broadcasting live today from Palm Beach, Florida, where tonight I'll deliver the keynote address at the Club for Growth Economic Conference. Now, before we get to our news of the day, I want to report to you that the Salem News Channel is continuing to grow. Starting this week, Salem News Channel is available now on Amazon Prime Video. You can find Salem News Channel under News via the live TV option. For more ways to watch, go to snc.tv and click on Ways to Watch. Now, this show is on over 300 stations coast to coast. We're in podcast form on Apple and Spotify. We're on snc.tv. I stream it every afternoon and every evening on my social media at Scott Jennings KY. And now, find us on Amazon Prime Video. Folks, the message continues to spread. Topping the news today, latest jobs report is in. Not a great report. 92,000 jobs lost in February. Healthcare sector was a big loser in the report, hampered by a strike, a huge strike. 31,000 Kaiser Permanente workers went on strike. Hospitality, construction, manufacturing, all down in the report. Now, the president's economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, says he's not overly worried about a one-month bobble. Let's listen to cut number 9.
What's going to happen, right, is that the variability in the data will be apparent to folks. And so what's going to happen, I think, is that there'll be some anxiety that another number like this or 2 or 3 numbers like this is ahead for us. But we really don't believe that because, as you and I have discussed, like every other indicator is consistent with very strong GDP growth right now. And so this really is an outlier number.
Kevin Hassett there at the White House. Iran war update. President Trump said this morning there will be no deal with Iran, no negotiations, except in the case of an unconditional surrender from the enemy. He has indicated that the next leader of Iran must be acceptable to him. And the bombing has intensified today. The U.S. and Israel are pounding Tehran. U.S. B-2 bombers dropping dozens of 2,000-pound penetrator bombs targeting deeply buried ballistic missile launchers. Israel has destroyed the Ayatollah's underground bunker where several regime officials were said to be located. We'll keep an eye on the war effort throughout the show. And joining us now to discuss the news of the day, the governor of West Virginia is here, Patrick Morrisy. Governor, welcome back to the Scott Jennings Show. Glad to have you. You heard the economic news and the jobs report. What are you seeing in the West Virginia economy?
Well, first of all, Scott, thanks so much for having me back on. I always enjoy spending time with you, and I know we've got a lot of good friends together.
We do.
Common in Kentucky. You know, look, what we're seeing, we obviously know that President Trump passed an unprecedented tax bill last year. You're beginning to see it take effect. A lot of people are now filing the returns. I'm actually expecting whatever blip there may be, we're going to start to see some growth and update. In West Virginia, we had a little bit of slowdown last year, but I think that we're poised to come out of it for a couple of reasons. One, in West Virginia, we're really leveraging our energy resources, and there are a lot of new construction starts. Since October, I've been able to announce over $10.5 billion of new private sector investment, leading to about 10,000 new jobs, a lot of construction jobs. There are going to be healthcare jobs that follow, a lot of energy jobs. So I think a lot of it is just there's some regional disparities in the numbers you're seeing. But with the tax provisions coming online, we see that helping West Virginia. With the Rural Health Transformation Program, we see that helping in healthcare. And so I have to believe it's a blip because we're really optimistic in West Virginia.
I want to ask you about an emerging part of our economy, these AI data centers. You call them intelligence centers. Is West Virginia welcoming of this new part of our tech economy?
You know, we really are, for a couple different reasons. First of all, West Virginia is such a rich energy state. And the one thing that these data and these AI and these intelligence companies need, they need power. They need reliable power. They need affordable power. West Virginia can do that better than just about any state in the nation. So we're building on that strength. But Scott, the other thing we're doing is we're actually cutting red tape faster. So we're allowing companies to come in and build quicker than in other places. So we passed one of the most important laws last year in our state to make it very attractive for these intelligence centers to locate in West Virginia. And now our phone is running off the hook. We had a big announcement last week. We have a lot more coming.
Yeah, I read, I believe, a $4 billion investment in a high-impact intelligence center, and that's going in Berkeley County.
Right.
What makes that particular part of West Virginia attractive for something like this?
Well, a couple things. I mean, there are a lot of attractive parts, especially where these companies are locating right near pipelines because they have access to the energy. But Berkeley is also very attractive because it's within an hour and 25 minutes of D.C. It's very close to Ashburn and a lot of the data center hubs from Loudoun County. And looking at everything that's going on in Virginia, where they're trying to lift tax rates up, increase burdens on businesses, a lot of companies that would otherwise look to locate in Virginia are now looking at West Virginia, and Berkeley's just a few miles away.
Yeah, you all stand poised to take advantage of a rapidly changing environment in Virginia. New governor there,
right.
A Democrat, raising taxes. It's really sort of radical and different, of course. They had Governor Youngkin for 4 years. He had the state on the right track. Now they're on the wrong track, but that's to your benefit. And you mentioned red tape. You're also, which I know you had a permitting reform that you did, but you're also right now asking the legislature in West Virginia for tax cuts.
We are. I've called for a 10% across the board income tax cut. We've made a lot of the difficult decisions to reduce spending, and so we're poised to do it. The Senate in West Virginia passed that 10% tax cut. We think that's good. The House was at 0 until yesterday. Now they've moved to 5. I want to continue to put pressure on them to get to 10%. Look, I'll take whatever they're going to give me right now because West Virginians deserve a tax cut, but we can do more.
Yeah, that's Governor Patrick Morrisy of the great state of West Virginia. Now, Governor, during the President's State of the Union, the nation heard about the bravery of 2 West Virginia service members who received Purple Hearts. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, who actually survived the terrorist attack near the White House last fall, and also a Purple Heart went to the family of the deceased Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom. You personally requested these decorations from the president. So that moment was set up by a conversation that you had with the commander-in-chief.
That's right. So I talked to the president after the incident in Washington, D.C. back in November, and then I also had a chance to chat with the president a couple days before he made his State of the Union address. And he is so focused on showing the families of these brave men and women how much he cares. And these were courageous people. They deserved it. There was a terrorist hit on 2 West Virginians who were doing their job. They were fulfilling the mission. It was a good mission to help Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And I know that the president was very eager to show the respect for the families and Sarah, who made the ultimate sacrifice, and Andrew, who everyone left for dead.
Yeah.
And now he's starting his comeback, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really incredible, the story of Andrew Wolf. The president honored a number of military figures there at the State of the Union, and obviously you were a big part of making that happen. We've got about 30 seconds. Obviously, we're at war with Iran right now. You're watching all of this unfold. West Virginians are watching it unfold. Does the president have the support of your people as we take out this terrorist regime?
Look, the president does have the support of people in West Virginia. I know yesterday I greeted a lot of our guardsmen who came back. They were actually doing an exercise at the Horn of Africa, 120 people that I saw come off the plane. So these are some of the finest men and women in our country. West Virginia stands with the president, and we want to make sure that when you have these kind of foreign powers doing the things they're doing, they know that America is not going to tolerate that.
That voice you're hearing today, that of Governor Patrick Morrisy of the great state of West Virginia.
Good to see you, Scott.
Thanks for coming on the show, Governor. Before you get away, I do need to share with our listeners a story from Rod in Texas. Rod is 64 years old. He was telling me that he used to build houses on the side, and all this physical labor in his life gave him excruciating back pain, and he didn't know what to do. So he turns to Relief Factor. Within 4 days, the pain subsided. Here's a quote from Rod: "Being pain-free is indescribable." That's what happened to him in the weeks after he started using Relief Factor. If you're having some pain in your life, my advice, try Relief Factor's 3-week quick start and see how it works for you. Call 1-800-4RELIEF or go to ReliefFactor.com, 1-800-4RELIEF, or visit ReliefFactor.com. Ask yourself, how will it feel to be out of pain? You might get the answers from Relief Factor. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our next guest today, North Carolina Congressman Brad Knott, making his debut on the Scott Jennings Show. It's common sense for the American people. Stay with us. Iran has unleashed missile attacks on Israel, and across the Holy Land today, children are watching the skies for rockets. Mothers and fathers are listening closely for red alert sirens. These sirens give you 15 seconds to get to the nearest bomb shelter. The situation, folks, is serious, and the threat is real. Right now, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground preparing large-scale distributions of life-saving food, first aid, emergency essentials for civilian security personnel, and ensuring hospitals, emergency rooms, and shelters are fully stocked with critical and life-saving medical supplies. Aid is all focused here on protecting Israel's most vulnerable people, the sick, the elderly, children, and families who are in great need. But the fellowship needs your most generous gift today to make this work possible, and now is your time to stand with Israel's most vulnerable. To rush your gift, call 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ, or go online at ifcj.org. ifcj.org. Please help this effort today.
Saving Western civilization, one busted leftist narrative at a time. It's the Scott Jennings Show.
Welcome back here on Friday, March the 6th. Scott Jennings broadcasting live from the free state of Florida. But this segment, we'd like to talk about North Carolina, one of the most targeted states in the 2026 midterm election. We have a major United States Senate race going on there, and at least one highly targeted congressional race. Hundreds of millions of dollars will be spent in the Tar Heel State this year. My next guest represents North Carolina's 13th district in the House. Let's hear him in action in cut number 1.
To the Angel families, I'm going to apologize for my colleagues. They issue crocodile tears, they issue fake sympathy, and then they continue to defend the open border policies that enable preventable crimes that brought you here today. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that they are still continuing to defend illegal immigration and act like it is not a mortal wound to this country. Your country failed you, and I'm sorry.
That voice, Congressman Brad Knott from North Carolina. Welcome to the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, good morning, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. That moment, by the way, a powerful moment, was from the House Judiciary Committee in a hearing there with Angel families who have lost loved ones to violent illegal aliens. Tell us a little bit about the debate inside the committee between Republicans and Democrats over this immigration issue.
Well, just to set the stage, Scott, for your viewers, the Angel families were attending that hearing en masse. There were dozens of people there. They had photos of family members who had been killed through various crimes exclusively by illegal aliens. And also present was a precious 5-year-old girl named Delilah Coleman, who President Trump recognized at his State of the Union. And her spirit was unbelievably powerful. I mean, here this little girl is. She was a healthy, vibrant young child whose body was crushed by an illegal alien who was driving an 80,000-pound truck. And there she was in her wheelchair advocating for common sense enforcement so that other children don't suffer the same plight that she is currently suffering. And every one of those families, they are forever altered. right? I mean, these are people who have died. These are people who have suffered. These are communities that have been lost. And every single Democrat went after Kristi Noem. They went after the president. They went after Republicans for trying to remove illegal aliens. And they're still defending the open border policies as somehow beneficial to the country. And how they could do that with the obvious case directly in front of them, it's just beyond me. And it really flies in the face of common sense. It's not logical. Every American knows that illegal immigration is like I said in the hearing, a mortal threat to this country. And their just persistence in trying to protect illegal immigrants and the open border policy that brought the illegal immigrants to our homes, it's really beyond explanation.
Yeah, the immigration issue, I think, is still the president's best issue. It's his best success. The border is closed. 3 million people have been deported. That having been said, he did make a personnel change yesterday, removing Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security and replacing her with Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma. Was that the right decision, Congressman?
Well, like I said earlier, I think that President Trump and Republicans are very focused on the mission. And the mission is we want to protect American citizens and people who are here legally. If you have an open border that has allowed tens of millions of people here illegally, you cannot protect America's interests. You cannot protect American families. And unfortunately, there were a variety of missteps from Kristi Noem. She did some good work. She secured the border, but she became a distraction. And this president is focused on removing people who are here illegally, especially those who pose the gravest harm. And if a personnel or member of the cabinet becomes a distraction, the president is not going to tolerate it. And so I believe he did make the right decision.
Congressman Brad Knott is our guest this segment. Now, you're in North Carolina. You've got a big Senate race. It's the Republican Michael Whatley versus the Democrat Roy Cooper. This is to replace Tom Tillis. I got about 30 seconds. Do you expect the immigration issue, the public safety issue, to be one of the biggest arguments for Whatley as he tries to take on the former Democrat Governor Cooper there?
100%. Roy Cooper has tried to show himself to be someone who's a moderate. He has sold his political soul to the far left side of the Democratic Party. He has freed very violent people into our state. He has not stood up to the far left factions on the immigration debate. And North Carolina has suffered because of it. And Roy Cooper, despite his best efforts, is essentially a North Carolina version of Tim Walz. And he's going to have to answer for that in a very serious way.
That voice, Brad Knott, Congressman from the great state of North Carolina. Congressman, thanks for coming on the show. We'll have you back very soon. And we're going to keep it in North Carolina after this break. I've got the Senator Ted Budd from North Carolina coming on. Stay with us here. It's Common Sense for the American People. I'm Scott Jennings on location in Florida. Coming up with more right after this. You know, gold and silver recently soared to record highs and then pulled back. So are precious metals still a good buy? Many Wall Street experts predict higher prices ahead. Why? Well, because we still have trillions in national debt, a declining dollar, and inflation that keeps shrinking our savings. Even with corrections along the way, gold remains a historical hedge for wealth protection. That's why Morgan Stanley's chief investment officer ditched the 60-40 stocks and bonds portfolio and is recommending up to 20% in precious metals. They're getting educated, and you should too. Call Lear Capital at 1-800-880-2424 for your free gold investment kit and learn how you could qualify for up to $20,000 in bonus gold. Lear Capital has over $3 billion in transactions and thousands of five-star reviews. Call 1-800-880-2424, 1-800-880-2424, or visit learscott.com.
You want to drive a leftist crazy? Tell the truth and keep smiling. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
And it is Friday, March the 6th. Common Sense for the American People. It's Scott Jennings on Salem. My next guest is here. We're keeping it in the state of North Carolina. This is United States Senator Ted Budd. Welcome into the show, sir. Good to see you again.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Big news in Washington yesterday, Senator, is that one of your colleagues, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, has been tapped by President Trump to replace Kristi Noem at the Department of Homeland Security. You supportive of this?
I think it's great. Mark Wayne is a colleague of mine. We came in together in 2022 in the Senate. Remember, his term was for 4 years because he was filling Jim Inhofe's term, who actually left earlier and since passed away. So he's up for election now. That'll open up that seat in Oklahoma. It's a solidly red state. If you go back to the time that we served together in the U.S. House, was Secretary Noem, then became governor after being in the U.S. House. All three of us served together in the House. So. But, she's got – I wouldn't even – look, she's got an off-ramp. The president has given her a new role to focus on the Western Hemisphere. After some disruption, we found a way to work together and to get aid for Western North Carolina, which has been my focus for the last 16 months. But I think Mark Wayne's going to do a great job. He's a fighter, but don't overlook the fact that he can really run a business. He's been very successful building a sizable company in Oklahoma. He's a good leader. He's been on the Armed Services Committee. He understands law enforcement. So I think he's going to be a great leader.
Lost in all this conversation about the Department of Homeland Security and the palace intrigue and the personnel is the fact that it is still shut down. The Democrats have DHS shut down right now, even though we're at war, even though we have increased terrorism threats in the United States. What are the prospects for getting the DHS reopened here? I mean, I think the American people might be getting a little tired of this.
Yeah, we're tired of it. We got 96% of the government funded through regular order, which I think is great. You get to vote on things. You don't do these massive omnibuses. But at the same time, this critical 4% that still remains is about our homeland security. That's the folks at the airport, all the way to Coast Guard, FEMA in the western part of North Carolina is huge, getting aid to that part of the state. We don't want dysfunction anymore. But I think this improves the odds of us having a reasonable conversation between hopefully Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen and the rest, because he's got good relationships, obviously, with me and even across the aisle. He's been great to work with.
Yeah, it seems like, based on what we've heard a couple of Democrats say, that Mark Wayne may actually get a bipartisan confirmation vote here.
I think he will. I think Fetterman's already come out. He's Fetterman's on so many issues. He's on the right side of history, including against Iran. But I think when it comes to getting Mark Wayne confirmed, you've got a lot of folks that will be very supportive. Now, if we can get to getting the funding for DHS, that's what we really need.
I mean, you represent one of the busiest airports in America there in Charlotte. Are you concerned that the DHS shutdown is putting us on the brink of an airport like Charlotte seeing disruptions because of TSA issues and other things?
I do. I mean, a couple months ago, back before the new year, we saw big people that weren't funded. But now we've got TSA folks. They just missed their paycheck yesterday. So I'm very worried about these TSA folks walking off the job and, stranding passengers.
Well, they certainly don't deserve to be treated this way. This is the second time the Democrats have caused them to have to go without paychecks and cause major disruption in their life. It's pretty despicable, actually. Senator, let's turn our attention to Iran. The war is going on. The pounding continues. We have heavy air bombardments going on. We have near, I think, air superiority for the Americans and the Israelis over Iran. We are learning today that apparently Russia has been providing some targeting intelligence to the Iranians for them to use what they have left to try to strike American positions. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's very concerning, and that was news right before we just went on the air here, seeing that. But obviously, they haven't been very successful, right? Or what are they targeting? They're targeting their allies and our friends, the Gulf cooperation states. Everybody, if you look at the randomness of what Iran has been attacking, that shows you the success of what Russia has been doing, which is not successful at all. It has alienated Iran even more. So I don't know what Russia gains by doing that, but it appears to have been a failure already.
Yeah, the Iranians have attacked, I think now 16 other countries. And even yesterday, we heard the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who was initially opposed to all of this military action, say that they're thinking of getting involved militarily because of the Iranian attacks in certain places that have put British citizens in jeopardy. Is it your expectation that we will see other countries besides the U.S. and Israel eventually join in with their own militaries?
It's to those countries' best interest that they join us and that we get this done quickly. I mean, thankfully, we're going into the warmer months for Europe because you've got so many gas issues. Because of the attacks from Iran, even on Qatar, they've shut off their northern gas fields. That eliminates natural gas going to Europe. So there's a major problem. So it's in Europe's best interest to get this done. But let's remember, rather than just this past week, this has been a 50-year problem, a 47-year problem since 1979. They've chanted death to America, death to our allies. They've married ballistic missiles with what the scraps that they've picked up from Isfahan and our Operation Midnight Hammer with the enrichment and trying to marry those two together. That's an existential threat, not just for us, but for all lovers of freedom in the western part of the world. So we need to deal with this. President Trump had the guts to do so. I'm grateful for what he's actually absolutely done in the last week.
Yeah, this whole debate over the idea of whether it was an imminent threat, I mean, it seems sort of silly to me in semantics. Of course it was an imminent threat. They had a ballistic missile program. They have a attack drone program. They told our negotiators that they had enough nuclear material to make 11 nuclear bombs. Of course it's an imminent threat.
They thought that was a negotiating tactic, saying we have 11. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's what they told Witkoff and Jared Kushner in very real, very sincere negotiations that they went into, hoping not to get to this. But it's a different type of logic altogether from the Iranians.
What's kind of shocking to me in the debates going on in Washington, you had a war powers vote in the Senate that was knocked down. They had one in the House last night. But in these debates, Democrats almost, or more than almost, in some cases sound like they're rooting for American failure. It's kind of crazy, is it not?
Yeah, they're off their rocker. I mean, they hate Trump more than they love America, and you can see that exactly in so many issues, whether it's the immigration issue or whether it's dealing with Iran.
There's a lot of focus on the air campaign, but there are also things going on at sea. Let's listen to Admiral Brad Cooper here. This is cut number 6, and we'll get our reaction to that.
Our strikes against the Iranian Navy have intensified. You may have heard the president say just a little while ago that we have sunk or destroyed 24 ships. That was true at the moment. We're now up over 30 ships. And in just the last few hours, we hit an Iranian drone carrier ship, roughly the size of a World War II aircraft carrier. And as we speak, it's on fire.
You know, Senator, if you're, I don't know, say China, and you're watching what the U.S. Air Force can do, you're watching what the U.S. Navy can do, this is a pretty strong message to, I think, our number one geopolitical adversary. Don't try this.
Well, Trump's been very decisive. We realize that, I mean, there will be a day in America's future where he ultimately will not be our president. So the strength that we have now and the strength that President Trump has given us by rebuilding our military allows us to persevere even beyond 2028. So I'm thankful for President Trump. He is solving so many issues. I think about one of our founding fathers, Thomas Paine, who said, if there's to be trouble, let it be in my day so that my children might have peace. I really think that's how President Trump operates. Let's solve a problem now so that our kids and our grandkids don't have this same problem. And I really think it puts the PRC, it puts China just on watch to take us very seriously. We want peace. But again, we do it through strength.
That voice you're hearing, Senator Ted Budd of the great state of North Carolina. One more question on the war. Right as it was starting, we had a dispute going on between the Pentagon and a company called Anthropic, which is an artificial intelligence company. We'd been using Anthropic. We got into a dispute with them over what we were going to do with that, and ultimately the president fired Anthropic. It doesn't appear to have impeded our military activities. What's your view about this whole situation with Anthropic AI and how it impacts our military readiness?
Well, most people from the App Store know it as Claude, but it has been used by the Department of Defense, Department of War for the last couple of years. It's a great tool, but they really wanted control over what the Department of War was able to do. And let's remember, they are not the arbiters of defense policy. The civilian-led military is. President Trump is commander-in-chief. Department of War is a civilian. The secretary is. So they need to be in charge, the people that were elected, not Anthropic. And so they were asking for too much power in the equation, and I really think it should be up to the president and the civilian-appointed secretary of war. Look, it's a great tool, but there are many great tools. I mean, if you look at XAI, you look at ChatGPT, you look at Google's Gemini. I mean, all of these folks are developing fantastic tools, all with different strengths and weaknesses. We need to make them part of the picture of for our defense. But again, they are not, these programmers, these tech-savvy folks are not the ones that need to be driving defense policy for the United States.
That's Ted Budd. He occupies one of North Carolina's Senate seats. The other one is occupied currently by Tom Tillis, but he's retiring. and there's an open seat. And Senator, folks are saying, and you're no stranger to expensive races. You had one for the Senate, which you won. People are saying this could be a $1 billion Senate race in North Carolina.
That's a lot of inflation in North Carolina.
First of all, why haven't we purchased all the TV stations in North Carolina would be my first question. Second, I mean, is that really on the horizon here? Could we see $1 billion spent in a Senate race?
I'm not going to make financial predictions, but I am going to say that there is no free path from the ex-governorship into the Senate. We've seen a Republican try to do it. You can go back to the Jim Hunt days and see him fail moving from the governorship to the Senate. You saw Roy Cooper leave, and not leave in good condition. He really mismanaged Hurricane Helene in western North Carolina, dropped the ball there. We're still kind of picking up the pieces from that in western North Carolina. We saw the horrendous killing of a beautiful young girl who fled Ukraine, come to Charlotte to be with the safety of her family, was building a life, and then was killed by somebody that Cooper had cut a deal on. During COVID, he cut a deal with the NAACP to let out 3,500 convicted individuals, and including the killer of Rena Zaruchka. So it's heartbreaking. I know Trump recognized the mother and the family at the State of the Union. So, look, that's a situation that should have never occurred. But under President Trump, we're safer. Under policies like Michael Whatley would support, we're going to be safer. He's from western North Carolina. He is a local North Carolinian, born and raised there, knows every single county, drives a pickup truck with a couple 100,000 miles. And, we work to outwork each other in the state, but it's hard to do. He's going to be a great senator. Well, he's going to play like he's an old shucks tobacco farmer, but he's not. He did not leave North Carolina in great shape. And, I think we've got a lot better options than Michael Whatley.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Thanks so much.
That is Ted Budd, U.S. Senator from the state of North Carolina. Hang out for just 1 second while I tell our listeners about my wireless company, a great company called Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile does two things. They offer amazing wireless service. They also support your values. They invest in your values. They take your cell phone bill and they invest some of that money into causes that you care about, Christian conservative causes. You don't have to worry about service. You're going to get the same great service on all the major U.S. carriers. You might even get better service. You can get unlimited data. You get hotspots. You get everything you need, but you're investing that cell phone bill in a company that actually is with you on how you see the world. Make the switch today. Go to patriotmobile.com/Scott or call 972-PATRIOT. Use promo code Scott. They'll give you a free month. That's patriotmobile.com/Scott or call 972-PATRIOT. We're broadcasting on location today from Palm Beach, Florida. We're going to take a break. When we come back, David Macintosh, the head of the Club for Growth, is here. It's Common Sense for the American People. Stay with us.
Common sense for the American people. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
Hey, it's Scott. I want to talk to you about our friends at Balance of Nature. You can find them, by the way, at balanceofnature.com. They have this thing called the Balance of Nature Whole Health System. These supplements are perfect for a resolution in the new year. It's kind of tough to stick with New Year's resolutions, and that's why Balance of Nature's Whole Health System supplements are one of the easiest ways to do it. They're very versatile. You do 2 scoops of fiber and spice and mix it easily into drinks, and it adds a warm, aromatic depth. You can also open 3 of your fruit supplements and mix the powder into a smoothie, or sprinkle 3 of the veggie supplements over one of the savory dishes that you're having for dinner. It's called Balance of Nature's Whole Health System. These supplements include 47 ingredients of 100% whole fruits, vegetables, spices, and fibers, perfect for your daily routine. 50% off if you do it now for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System from our friends at Balance of Nature. Get it at balanceofnature.com. It is Friday, March the 6th. We're broadcasting from Palm Beach, Florida. And tonight, the reason I'm here is because I've been invited to talk to the Club for Growth tonight. They're having an economic conference, so I thought I'd invite on the head of the Club for Growth. David Macintosh is here. David, you founded not one but 2 major conservative organizations, the Club for Growth, which we'll talk about now, but also the Federalist Society. You were congressman from the great state of Indiana at one time. Really appreciate the invitation to be here. Maybe tell our listeners a little bit about what Club for Growth is focused on in this midterm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on. We love watching you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. So Club for Growth is now the largest free market conservative group. Last election, we brought $160 million into it, won 80% of our races. Our focus is on supporting, electing, and promoting champions for freedom, free markets in the economy, individual liberty, and limited government. And at the conference, you'll get a chance to meet them. We've had a tremendous success over the years. Ted Cruz, Mike Lee were early victories that we had. They're now chairman in the Senate of key committees. And we've got a whole group of new members that we're supporting. And occasionally we have to take out some bad guys. You know, in Texas, last Tuesday, they had their primaries, and there's a longtime rhino, a guy named Dan Crenshaw, who promised his voters he'd be a conservative. You thought he would be. He's a SEAL, served his country that way. But he turned out to be a moderate in Congress. And so a young man, Steve Toth, challenged him. We knew that if Club for Growth came in, all of the establishment would come in and give him tons of money. So we quietly did it under a different super PAC, and Steve ended up winning that primary.
Interesting. This is David Macintosh, by the way, head of the Club for Growth here on the Scott Jennings Show. What are you focused on in the fall? What kind of races do you think are going to catch most of your attention?
It's critical that we keep the majority in the House. Right now, the Democrats are targeting a lot of our members, and so we're gonna raise a fund, probably about 50, 60 million, to make sure that the good guys can win and that we keep the majority.
You all are champions for smaller government.
Yes.
Something that's going on that I feel like conservatives aren't talking about enough and celebrating enough. And you may have missed this out there in our audience. The federal government is smaller than it has been since 1966.
Yeah.
And as a percentage of the workforce, it's the smallest that it's ever been. Every Republican I ever worked for my whole career said they were going to shrink the government. Trump finally did it.
He did. It's been incredible. He also cut out thousands of pages of regulation. They think that probably saved us $5 trillion of cost on American business. And for the first time ever, we're starting to see repeal of bad regulations and rolling it back. You're right. Republicans always say we're for smaller government, and then their appropriators come in and join the Democrats and spend more money.
Yeah, this shrinking of the government by Trump, and it's interesting because it's happening simultaneous to a rebalancing of the economy. Under Biden, there was a lot of emphasis on growing government jobs, more federal jobs, more state and local government jobs. Under Trump and the Republicans right now, the emphasis on shrinking government but increasing private sector. Are you generally happy with the president's economic approach so far?
Oh, yeah. I think he's done a tremendous job. He's unlaunched enormous new investments. He's growing the economy. First 3 quarters last year, the economy grew at over 4%. That's a record. And business investment grew by about 3.7%. And we have the largest number of people working in private sector jobs than we've ever had.
If you could give, we got about 30 seconds, if you could give the U.S. Congress one piece of advice, what they need to do right now to help the American people and help the Republican cause this fall, what would it be?
I think it would be to address affordability. The Democrats are saying, all this inflation that Biden created made life unaffordable. We're going to bring in socialism and make it affordable. They need to nail that and say, we have a better plan for cheaper gas prices, cheaper housing, cheaper gas. And then, frankly, we need to run on the campaign. You can't let them back in the door.
Yeah.
You do, and all of it will come to a halt. You'll pay more taxes. You'll pay higher prices again. You'll lose your job. We have to clearly draw that contrast.
That voice you're hearing, former congressman and now head of the Club for Growth, one of the most influential outside groups in American politics, David Macintosh. David, thanks for the invitation to be down here. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for coming. We'd love to have you all the time.
Love it, sir. We're going to take a break, top of the hour break. We've got more to come. It's Common Sense for the American People. Scott Jennings is here in Florida. Stay with us. It's Common Sense for the American People here on Friday, March the 6th. We're broadcasting live from Palm Beach, Florida. Once again, on location, the world travels of Scott Jennings continue and we're grateful for your joining us today. Let's do some news, shall we? We've already had an amazing show today with great guests, and we're grateful for everybody stopping by. But I wanted to get into the news with you all just a little bit. And checking the headlines, the White House has announced that President Trump will attend the dignified transfer of the 6 U.S. service members who have been killed so far in Operation Epic Fury. This is our attack on Iran. So the president will go to the base and see their bodies return to American soil. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt spoke to the media today. She made some comments on the war. Let's hear from Ms. Leavitt in cut number 11.
As for the future of Iran, as the president has pointed to, of course it's in the best interest of the United States of America for Iran to no longer be led by a radical terrorist regime that chants death to America and is lying to the United States and the world about their secret ambitions to possess a nuclear bomb. President Trump does not want to see that. He wants to take an interest in pursuing who the next leader of the Iranian country is going to be, and that has yet to be seen, and the president is discussing it and deliberating.
Now, Iranian retaliatory attacks appear to be declining. Ballistic missile strikes have fallen by 90% since the beginning of the war. Drone attacks have fallen by 83%, this coming from U.S. Central Command. This is going to ease pressure on the other Gulf states there in the region who have faced these attacks from Iran. So right now, we have near American air superiority over the skies of Iran. We have declining retaliatory strikes from Iran. By all accounts, the U.S.-Israeli military effort is going well. A major underground bunker was destroyed by Israel today. This was under the Ayatollah's compound. It was thought that there were some Iranian regime officials in there, so Israel destroyed that. The United States is also dropping 2,000-pound bombs on Tehran and in other sites where they believe there are underground ballistic missile launchers. Back in Washington, there was a resolution in the House of Representatives yesterday, and this is crazy. 53 Democrats voted against reaffirming this idea that the Islamic Republic of Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terror. That was the resolution. It's a non-binding resolution, so it's essentially a messaging document. The message was that Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. Pretty simple thing, but 53 Democrats, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, and Rashida Tlaib, all those are members of the squad. They, along with several dozen other House members, voted against the idea that Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. President Trump called up my CNN colleague Dana Bash this morning. They had a phone call. The call wasn't recorded, but Dana Bash talked on the air today about what the president told her. You're going to want to hear this if you care about what's going on in Cuba. Let's listen to that in cut number 8.
He quickly turned to Cuba. He said, without being asked, Cuba is going to fall pretty soon, by the way, but Cuba is going to fall. They want to make a deal so badly. And I asked, how so? He said, they want to make a deal, so I'm going to put Marco over there, and we'll see how that works. But we're really focused on this one now, meaning Iran. We've got plenty of time on Cuba.
So even as we prosecute the war in Iran, the president's still keeping his eye on the Western Hemisphere, specifically looking for changes in Cuba, and referencing there that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will be heavily involved in that. Democrats still none too pleased with any of this, and as they plot to win the November midterm, the priorities of the Democratic Party are becoming more clear by the day. This is California Congressman Ro Khanna. You need to hear this. He admits it. The Democrats' first priority, if they regain the majority, will be to impeach Donald Trump. This is cut number 5.
So the ultimate consequence for Trump would be impeaching him. Do you think this rises to the level of impeachment?
Well, he's done so much else that I think rises to the level of impeachment. We can list that in the bill of goods. I am one of the people who do think if we win the House, we should impeach him because there has to be accountability.
That's Ro Khanna from California. He certainly speaks for a great many Democrats. Over on the House Republican Conference side, a little political news. Congressman Tony Gonzalez of Texas is dropping his reelection bid. Now, Tony Gonzalez, we talked about this on the show yesterday, is an incumbent congressman. He was just involved in the Texas primary. He was forced into a runoff against a challenger named Brandon Herrera. But Tony Gonzalez has been involved in an ethics problem. It's been found, and he has admitted that he had a sexual personal relationship with a staff member in his office. This is a violation of the House ethics rules. Yesterday, while we were on the air, the House Republican leadership asked Tony Gonzalez to drop out of his race, and as of right now, Tony Gonzalez has acquiesced to that demand, so that clears the way for Brandon Herrera to be the Republican nominee and most likely Republican congressman from that district in Texas. We had a jobs report today, and frankly, the news was not good. 92,000 jobs were lost. However, the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, is saying there are other positive indicators in the data. Let's listen to Kevin here in cut number 10.
You know, Jim's right that there have been so many strong indicators this month that it's something of a surprise, but there's some weather, there are strikes on the West Coast, and I think that we also have this birth-death model, a change in the procedure at the BLS. And so I think what we need to start doing with these jobs numbers, at least on the payroll side, is take the average over a few months. And if you take the average over a few months, we had a surprisingly positive one last month and a surprisingly negative one this one. But on average, it's about what we expect to be seeing, because immigration has gone down by so much that break-even employment is probably in the sort of 30 or 40,000 jobs a month range. And so, yeah, I think it's consistent with everything else we're seeing, which is that the economy is really strong. And the headline for me is something that I'm sure you guys probably already noticed, is that productivity is about the highest we've ever seen, and manufacturing wages are up year over year by $2,400 now.
That's the president's top economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, brushing off today's negative jobs report. President's also replacing his Homeland Security Secretary. Kristi Noem is out. That announcement was made yesterday. She'll be out as of March 31st, and to be replaced by Oklahoma Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin, and he'll go in first as acting. He'll have to face Senate confirmation. Will he get some Democratic votes? It sounds like it. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman says he plans to support Markwayne Mullin. And I want you to listen to this. This is Democrat Senator Peter Welch praising the president's pick here in cut number 7.
He'll be confirmed. The question is whether there'll be bipartisan support for him. And Markwayne Mullin is competent and he's honest.
Getting some kudos and some plaudits from his Democratic colleagues in the U.S. Senate. One final story to bring to you here in our first segment. You may have heard of a congressman named Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. At one time, Seth Moulton was discussed as something of a moderate Democrat. That certainly has changed in the last couple of years. At the president's State of the Union address just a few days ago, he decided to invite as his guest an illegal immigrant named Marcelo Gomes da Silva. So Seth Moulton brought an illegal immigrant to the U.S. Capitol. If that weren't bad enough, it turns out that this illegal immigrant is involved in some sort of a police report citing sexual assault and juveniles. That's according to the report. The Boston Herald is reporting that the Milford Police Department, however, is denying a public records request for these reports because it does involve juveniles. So the headline news here is a Democrat member of Congress named Seth Moulton brought an illegal immigrant to the U.S. Capitol for the president's speech, and this person's name shows up in police records involving sexual assault and juveniles. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have the Relief Factor Pain of the Week. It's common sense for the American people. I'm Scott Jennings, live from Florida. Stay with us.
Fighting for free speech and Western civilization. This is the Scott Jennings Show.
It is Friday, March the 6th. I've got a message, by the way, that every parent and every grandparent needs to hear, and it is that kids are being targeted online through these gaming platforms, social media, and messaging app. And our friends and partners at Child Help, they hear from these kids who've been targeted every single day. They are groomed, they are manipulated, and they are threatened by adults who are pretending to be someone else. One boy called up the Child Help hotline, and he was terrified and ashamed. He had encountered an adult in one of these online games And that adult groomed him and then asked him, demanded from him photos. And then he threatened to lie to the boy's parents if he did not comply. You can imagine what happened. The boy was scared. He was ashamed. He got in touch with Child Help. And that call to Child Help, frankly, may have saved that boy's life. That's why I support Child Help. It's why you should as well. If you make a $27 donation, that funds one of these contacts between a child who is in distress and the child abuse hotline. The hotline, by the way, can be phone. They also have a texting hotline. They have an online chat. They have numerous ways for kids to get in touch. Child Help is talking to kids who are being abused, who are being groomed, who are in danger, and they are saving their lives. That's why I support Child Help. $27, that's all we're asking for here. Go to childhelp.org/Scott or text Child Help to 94878, and you can give your $27 donation by doing that today. Well, it is Friday afternoon, and on the Scott Jennings Show, that means it is time, Hollywood Sean, for the Relief Factor Political Pain of the Week.
And now, the Relief Factor Pain of the Week. Oh.
I wonder every week if the person that is in such duress on our banner there has gotten any relief. I hope he has, because he sounds terrible, frankly. Every week, we're going to highlight a person, politician, or organization that is causing me or our country some sort of pain. And if you have spent any time paying attention to politics over the last decade, you know that the Democratic Party has one clear mission. If Donald Trump supports it, we oppose it. And for that reason, I am making congressional Democrats our Relief Factor Pain of the Week, because they can't break free of the silly idea that if Donald Trump is for it, we have to be against it. So what is their latest reflexive anti-Trump position? It is Iran. They like to stop the military action against Iran, even though that country is an imminent threat, has a ballistic missile program, is building nuclear weapons, and has been targeting the United States and chanting death to America for 47 years. Democrats apparently think this is all fine. In fact, on CNN this week, I was told several times by many people that Iran was not an imminent threat. Oh, I'm sorry. They're not? The guys who've been chanting death to America for 5 decades, who were building nuclear weapons, who told our own negotiators they had enough material for 11 nuclear weapons, they don't pose an imminent threat to the United States, to Israel, to most people in the world. The guys who are constantly firing ballistic missiles and building ballistic missiles factories, the guys who are using one-way attack drones, they don't pose an imminent threat? Give me a break. And Democrats now have taken to calling this war, like they do everything else Donald Trump does, illegal and unconstitutional. But is it? Of course not. Here's how Speaker Mike Johnson making the clear case about what the president's powers actually are. Cut number 2.
There's no question about this. The Democrats never had any question about it when Democrat presidents were using this authority. When you look at the analysis of the War Powers Act and the law that applies and the powers that are given to the Commander-in-Chief under Article 2 of the Constitution, President Trump has done exactly what he should do. He is squarely within the law. He used his discretion and his authority and the intelligence that he had, exquisite as it was, as is demonstrated by its effectiveness, and he did what he should have done as a Commander-in-Chief.
That's the current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. But if that is not convincing enough for you, let's listen to a former Speaker of the House, a Democrat named Nancy Pelosi. Here's what she said about President Obama's use of the same powers back in 2011 in cut number 3.
So, Madam Speaker, Madam Leader, you're saying that the president did not need authorization initially and still does not need any authorization from Congress on Libya?
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you all very much.
A clear yes from Nancy Pelosi. A CBS News poll from this week found that 76% of respondents approve of this military action if it lasts only a few weeks or days. But just a few days into it, and the military is performing swimmingly. So for all of these reasons, the reflexive opposition to Trump and the apparent siding with Iran, against America and our ally Israel. Congressional Democrats are my relief factor pain of the week. If you need relief from pain, call 1-800-4RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com. Take a break. Friday Punditry with Rich Lowry is next on The Scott Jennings Show.
Conversations and stories you simply won't hear from the mainstream media. It's The Scott Jennings Show.
We are in the home stretch here on Friday afternoon, March the 6th. It is common sense for the American people. Scott Jennings broadcasting coast to coast and worldwide now on Salem. We appreciate you listening in. And just like we do every Friday, we wrap up the week with some Friday punditry. Joining me as the pundit of the week, good friend, editor-in-chief of the National Review, Rich Lowry, is here to kick around the news of the week. Welcome back to the show, Rich.
Thanks. Great honor to be pundit of the week. Undeserved, but I'll take it anyway.
Well, you were the pundit of the week that was available, so that's what we're that's what we're doing today. All right, big news of the week. As we were going off the air last Friday, a week ago today, based on the timeline that I've seen, the president was at that moment making the decision to begin striking Iran. We all woke up Saturday morning to massive airstrikes. That bombardment, Rich, has continued all week long. Let's just start here. Did the president make the right decision to strike Iran?
I think he did. I think Marco Rubio's case that he had to do this eventually is the correct one. They're rebuilding their missile stocks, something they can do quite readily, and they're doing at a rapid clip. And if they got to a certain critical point there, it'd be very hard to do anything to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon because it'd be so painful. They'd have such a deterrent force with these missiles. We've seen they've been able to exact some pain just with the missiles and drones they have. So I think this was the right call. I have some misgivings and some criticisms. I wish they had made more of a public case. I wish they'd actually go to Congress and got an authorization, although I don't think it's legally mandated. But operationally so far, it's been quite successful. Now, there are going to be some economic cost to this, and that's what the Iranians are counting on to eventually stay Donald Trump's hands. But even if he doesn't change the regime or get a more pliable regime, he's certainly going to flatten their nuclear program, a lot of the missile capabilities, their Navy, that's already happened, and a lot of their military capabilities. So I think it's all to the good.
Rich, what do you think about Secretary of War Pete Hegseth so far? He's had a few briefings this week with General Kane and others. Is he living up to the high title here of Secretary of War? Is he doing the job?
Well, I think the most important thing is what happens on the ground and whether military operations are successful. They are. I think he's quite a talented communicator. Can be a little overly combative and bombastic to my taste, but that's kind of what Trump likes. And these guys likes him to fight back with the fierceness of a caged tiger. So, but the most important test is, are the military operations going well? That's been an A.
All right, Rich, the president tweeted out today that there will be no negotiations, and the only thing he is looking for here from Iran is complete and total surrender. Now, we've seen some polling showing the American people are largely supportive of this as long as it doesn't last more than a few weeks. Is the president on the right public posture here as he talks about what he wants to see on complete and total surrender, and also saying that he would like to at least approve of the next person who takes over this country?
Yeah, so what he's trying to convince them, guys, this isn't going to end. You've already been in a world of pain, and you're going to have a world of pain to come. So give me someone else to work with. So I think that's the posture for him, developing the most possible leverage publicly. But he's very cognizant, right, of the markets, the stock market, the gas prices. So I'm sure he, too, doesn't want this to go on for too long, because we've already seen some elevation in gas prices, could see more of that the longer this drags on. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think it'd be a big victory, Scott, if he just gets a more playable interlocutor from this regime, right? The regime's still standing, but it decides, all right, we've opposed the Americans for long enough. We're just going to give him what he wants, because if we don't give it to him, it's going to be more and more pain, and we're going to lose everything anyway. So I think that's quite plausible. It'd be great if the regime, in my mind, fell. I think it's the foremost anti-American regime on the planet. It has American blood on its hands up to its elbow, going back decades. So I'm willing just to open this door number 3 and see what's there, but I'm not sure whether that's actually going to happen.
All right, Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of the National Review, pundit of the week here on the Scott Jennings Show. Let's talk about the Democratic reaction to all of this. Yesterday, there was a resolution in the House, a non-binding resolution, a messaging document, if you will, that simply stated that and reaffirmed the U.S. position that Iran is, in fact, the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. 53 Democrats voted against that. You have had a number of Democrats come out and call this war illegal and unconstitutional. Rich, do the Democrats risk here looking anti-American? Do they risk looking like they're cheering for American failure? And have they left themselves any wiggle room here if, in fact, the president's right? The regime falls, we take out the nukes, we take out the ballistic missiles, and all of a sudden, Iran is neutralized.
Yeah, well, of course, they won't give them any credit. They'll just mumble and look at their shoes if that's the circumstance and move on to the next issue. I think the best case for them politically is just to say, look, everyone cares most about prices. And this president has taken his eye off the ball with regard to prices. And this is another example of it. Rather than, oh, gee, this is such a terrible thing. You wiped out this Ayatollah who's defined this regime for decades and has American blood on their hands. But they can't help themselves. You know, they're driven by a blind animus towards this president, and very often they can't see their own political interest.
All right, post-war, let's say for a moment, Rich, that the regime falls and there has to be some stabilization of Iran. Do you think the political will exists in America for any American troops to be stationed on the ground in Iran, or at least in the region, as we oversee some sort of transition to a new regime?
I don't think we're going to see any American troops in Iran unless it's some real emergency circumstance. You know, God forbid, I don't know. They can't do this because we have total air dominance at the moment, but a B-52 is down. I don't know what the crew is of B-52, and 9 guys are caught, and we want to go get them in a raid, something like that. But a stabilization force with U.S. service members in it, I think that's a red line for President Trump, and we won't see it.
All right, Rich Lowry is our pundit of the week. Let's come back home, Rich, and talk about things that happen in politics here in the United States. Big news yesterday. The president announced that he's firing Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and replacing her with Markwayne Mullins, senator from Oklahoma. A, did this surprise you? B, did the president make the right call?
Well, it didn't surprise me, Scott, because our reporter Audrey Fahlberg had a piece yesterday morning on how mad Trump was at her testimony and how it went, and he was considering Mullen. And sure enough, he fired her yesterday and brought in Mullen. Now, there have been rumblings about this for a very long time, but there are other names that have been brooded about, not Markwayne Mullin. So that aspect of it was a surprise. But I just think she was a poor pick. I think she had presidential aspirations, so she cared most about her image and, you know, tough-looking photos of her wearing various DHS uniforms or on horseback on these in this $220 million ad campaign encouraging illegal immigrants to go. So if Mullen just gets in there, cleans up any sketchy funding, says, I'm going to defer to the professionals rather than waging a turf war against them the way Kristi Noem did, and endorsing the Tom Homan approach, which is, let's go easy on the showy rates. We'll just go after the so-called worst of the worst, and then try to squeeze illegal employment with various forms of workplace enforcement. I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, I was not a fan, Rich, of the hats. She wore a lot of different hats, and I don't mean like Marco Rubio wears a lot of hats. She wore literal physical hats all the time. And if I had any advice for Markwayne Mullin, it's just put on a suit and look like a cabinet secretary. You're not there to carry a weapon. You're not there to dress up in a costume. You're there to run a massive agency, which, by the way, is still shut down right now.
Yeah, we don't see Tom Homan in uniforms, right? Everyone likes their windbreaker with the logo of whatever it is they're running. But that's all you need. You don't need the fancy costumes and the hats.
All right, so Kristi Noem was the first Trump cabinet secretary to be changed out in Trump 2.0. As you mentioned, by the way, and we should just credit her, Audrey Fahlberg, a intrepid reporter for the National Review, was the first reporter to have this. Does Audrey know anything else that we need to know? And in your opinion, Rich, are we going to see other personnel changes this year?
I don't know. It is notable this is the one, right? Given that Trump was famous for firing from his apprentice days, and there's a huge amount of turnover the first time around. I just think he's very loath to do it. He doesn't like giving the critics a scalp, and confirmations aren't, a nice prospect either. This is different. It's always good to get a senator who needs Senate confirmation because it usually goes relatively easily. So I'm not sure we're going to see anything else this year.
All right. Yesterday, a friend of the show, the chairman of House Foreign Affairs, Congressman Brian Mast, held a hearing. I'll be honest with you, Rich, when I first saw this and heard this, I thought it was AI because I didn't think there was any way this was actually said out loud in a congressional hearing. But I'm going to play it for you and we'll discuss it. Brian Mast discussing the maps at the State Department in cut number 12.
Can you tell me what is queering the map?
So I think we were trying to make the maps more gay.
Literally?
How
do you make a map more gay?
I mean, especially
or
with
gay
AI,
at all?
you know, since the age of cartography, we've had pretty good maps, but maybe they weren't gay enough. So I know also, I took critical theory in college. I think sometimes people use queer as a verb. I do understand that the maps that we were trying to make gay were, I think, of Czechia and Slovakia. So maybe those countries asked for it. I doubt it, but I don't know.
Okay, Rich, this actually happened in a House hearing. That other voice you were hearing there, by the way, was our Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, Sarah Rogers, who took over that job for a Biden appointee named Liz Allen. Brian Mast was questioning her on a series of programs that were given grant funding during the Biden administration to push DEI priorities. When you hear things like that, I mean, I know we got a lot going on in the world, but boy, it's sometimes important to look back and remember just how crazy things had gotten under Biden.
Yeah, I didn't know maps had gender, but now that I think back at it, maybe my Technico roadmap was cisgender. I should have seen it all the time. But what you said, Scott, about believing maybe this was AI, this is a problem Republicans have. There's some things that the Democrats are in favor or have been doing that's so crazy, it's really difficult to convince people it's real, and you're not making it up. And this is high on the list, right? I'm old school. I just want my maps to be accurate. I'm just happy with that.
This wasn't the only gender-related problem Democrats had this week. We talked about this on the show yesterday. This character they've nominated for the Senate down in Texas, Tallarico, is on the record in a legislative hearing himself saying that it was his opinion there were 6 genders, not 5, not 7, but the number of genders shall be 6. I actually, Rich, sent a communication to his campaign asking for a list of the 6 genders and which one Tallarico thought that he was. They did not answer my questions. I have promised the listeners an update. So Democrats still here in the year of our Lord 2026 struggling with the concept that there are 2 genders. Our pundit of the week is Rich Lowry. He's going to stick around through this commercial break, and we'll do this week's winners and losers. First, a quick word from our friends at Patriot Mobile. This is a critical year for our country, and as the liberal opposition grows more aggressive and unapologetic, the fight now is more important than ever, and it even includes some of the everyday decisions you make, like which wireless company should I use? Patriot Mobile has been standing on the front lines of the fight for freedom for over 12 years. It's a great company. They deliver top-tier wireless service, and they are activists just like you. They care about our country and the Christian conservative cause. They offer prioritized premium access on all 3 major U.S. networks. You'll get the same or better coverage than you have right now. Fast speeds, dependable nationwide coverage, unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming. Switch now, keep your number, keep your phone, or even upgrade it. I don't care. I just want you to get with Patriot Mobile because they are with us. PatriotMobile.com/Scott or call 972-PATRIOT and use promo code Scott. You do that, you're going to get a free month from my friend. I know these guys. You can trust them. Patriot Mobile is a good company. Rich Lowry is here. When we come back, winners and losers of the week on The Scott Jennings Show. Stay with us.
Straight talk without the bluster. When you positively need the truth, this is where you come. The Scott Jennings Show.
Thanks for joining us here on Friday, March the 6th. Home stretch on Friday of The Scott Jennings Show. By the way, do not forget, if you're mulling this over, let me just encourage you to do it now. Book your cabin today on the unforgettable November Gulf of America cruise. It's Mike Gallagher and Scott Jennings and a whole bunch of people who you will absolutely like and get along with. We'll be on a luxury cruise ship. We'll eat amazing food. We'll dip our toes in the sands and waters there in the Gulf of America. We're going to have insightful conversations about the future of our country, but we can't do it unless you come, and we want you to be there. It's really going to be a stunning opportunity to go on a great vacation right after the November election. Here's how you book your cabin today. Text the word cruise to 94878 or visit scottjenningsshow.com. Click on the Gulf of America Cruise banner. It's the Gulf of America Cruise in November. I'm personally inviting you. I want to see you out there. All right, we're in the middle of Friday Punditry. Our pundit of the week, the editor-in-chief of the National Review, Rich Lowry, is here. Rich, as always, it's time for you and me to pick our winners and losers of the week in American politics. A lot of people to choose from. Rich, we'll start with you. Who won the week in American politics?
I think the winner was Senator John Kennedy. He pursued this line of questioning with Kristi Noem about this big $220 million contract that wasn't really defensible, and she had no good answer, and this provided the occasion for Trump to axe her and get a better Homeland Security director. Not easy to go after your other side, but this was justified. Plus, he's had a book, John Kennedy, that's been on the bestseller list for weeks now, so hats off.
Yeah, Kennedy really showed that he's got the ear of the president. Apparently, after that hearing, the president called him up, asked him a bunch of questions about it. So I tend to agree. Senator John Kennedy, the clout of John Kennedy went up exponentially. He's Rich's winner of the week. Okay, loser of the week, Rich. There's a lot of people who had a bad week. The Ayatollah, rough week, to be honest. But I'm going to go with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. What do we have going on with Gavin Newsom this week? Well, we have a gas prices crisis going on in California. We've got Gavin Newsom this week, absolutely, I think, disgracing and disqualifying himself to be president and commander-in-chief with what he said about Israel this week, calling them an apartheid state, saying he would be up for a military embargo against Israel. We're in the middle of a war. They're our ally. We are working with the Israeli military against the biggest state sponsor of terror in the world. And you've got Gavin Newsom out here saying we ought to have a military embargo against Israel. He tried to walk it back, Rich, but he's still going on podcasts this week with anti-Semitic podcast hosts. I think Newsom lost his way this week, and also he's taken his eye off the ball, which is the principal argument against him, is that California sucks. Like, the governance of California is terrible, whether it's this gas prices crisis they're having. Gas is like $2 a gallon more out there than anywhere else, whether it's all the other governance issues they have. He's out here opining about Israel and so on and so forth. Loser of the week, Gavin Newsom. What do you think, Rich?
I think it's a pretty good loser. My pick, though, I don't know whether we want to keep it on our shorts, but I'm going to go outside our shorts. Whoever organized and scheduled the very public in-person meeting in Iran that provided the U.S. and Israel the opportunity to knock out the top leadership, that person is the loser of the week. Sometimes Zoom is okay. I'm totally on board. People going back in the office happen a lot of places already, but not if you're under threat from the U.S. and Israel. Good thing for us that this person scheduled this meeting, but not good for them.
Yeah, back-to-work policies not going well in Iran, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, that meeting probably could have been a Zoom. I don't know what the technology is in Iran. I don't know if they have Zoom or anything else, but Lord have mercy. That was a terrible idea to meet. And then, of course, the Council of Clerics a couple of days later was meeting, and they got bombed too. And so, I think
they need carrier pigeons because, I'm sure they're scared that Israel's infiltrated their Zooms and anything else. So maybe pigeons is the way to go.
Yeah, the fear running through the Iranian regime, what's left of it, must be high. I mean, they must look at everybody in their life thinking, are you Mossad? Are you Mossad? Yeah. Like they must, are you CIA? I mean, they must be looking at everybody in their life and just running scared. All right, Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of the National Review. You're the pundit of the week. Thanks for coming back to the show. We'll have you back soon. Always a pleasure.
All the best. Take care.
All right, thanks, Rich. This is Scott Jennings. I've been reporting to you live from the road this week, and today we are in Florida. Tonight, I'm delivering the keynote address at the Club for Growth Economic Forum here in Palm Beach. I'm looking forward to that, and thanks to David Macintosh for the invitation. Everybody have a great weekend. More breaking news on Monday. Don't miss a thing on Salem. See ya.